with the Orange Leader 77 channel, and I'm coming at you today with a protocol that I've been working on that kind of is an accumulation of all my research. And I wanted to put everything in one video that's as short and as concise as possible. So, some of my other videos, I go into more detail with some things. I recommend my Detox Guide 1 and 2 videos if you want a deeper look into some of the things I've been talking about. So I'm calling this the Mad Hatter 777 protocol. This may change. This is what I'm calling it right now. I like numbers, so 777 protocol keeps it simple for me. So my background is I actually had amalgam illness where I was violently ill for several years. Now, when I talk about my illness, it was really, really bad. And actually, I found out it was the fillings that were causing me to be sick. I rushed to have them removed. I removed too many too fast. So that whole story was a nightmare. It was a nightmare with this amalgam illness that I had. I ended up in the psych hospital more than once. Um, and it was very, very severe, and I had a really hard time. But I'm trying to turn the negative things that I went through into something positive and putting this information out there so you can kind of avoid dealing with some of the things that I had to deal with. But I also have a mood and thought disorder. I have to take medication for my schizoaffective that I have. I'm autistic and on the spectrum. But in my research, what I found was actually all of these things that I've been dealing with for so many years have links to mercury toxicity. And so I've spent a lot of time researching this. And the biggest thing that I discovered when I was researching is this bentonite clay detox bath. And I actually started a business where I sell the clay now. And I'm trying to promote people taking more of the baths. I discovered this from a guy named Aiton's Earth. He's on Facebook. And he had a website up that had a lot of information, and I actually had some bentonite clay laying around. I put it in the bath, and it actually helped me. It made me feel really good. I slept a lot better. It helped with my anxiety, and I ended up starting to take the baths more regularly. But the whole point of this is to outline a protocol that's safe and effective, and it eliminates or minimizes redistribution. Redistribution is the number one thing that you are trying to avoid when you're dealing with a heavy metal issue. So the primary objective here is there's no agreed upon method for removing or detoxing heavy metals. Now, when we're talking heavy metals, we're talking mercury, lead, arsenic, aluminum, cadmium, etc. Thallium sometimes is an issue for people, but detoxing from heavy metals is extremely dangerous, and it's a very poorly understood process that goes on, especially when you're dealing with an amalgam illness and the process that happens when you get the fillings removed. You have a process called the dump, where after about 2 or 3 months after you get them removed, um, your body dumps a whole bunch of mercury in your system. So it's not really well understood why that happens or where the metals accumulate, but it can take several months or years to recover from mobilizing large amounts of metals. Very important. The biggest example I have of this is a person got a glutathione injection. She said that she danced all night, and then it took her almost a year to recover after getting that shot because she mobilized a large amount of heavy metals. So the clay baths are the most effective way to reduce a person's heavy metal load. The baths are safe and they do not redistribute heavy metals. The clay baths also make a person feel refreshed and rejuvenated, and they are much safer and more effective than chemical chelation. The primary danger when detoxing heavy metals is redistribution into soft tissues, organs, and the brain. The primary objective of safe heavy metal detox is to reduce or eliminate this redistribution. It's also critical to avoid damaging elimination organs like your kidneys and your liver. Chemical chelation can be extremely hard on your kidneys, so it actually eliminates the heavy metals through your kidneys and through your bladder. Now, your kidneys and your bladder are probably going to be the most damaged organs that you have when you have a severe heavy metal issue like mercury poisoning. So, chelation dosage is also way too high for a sick person. The dosages that they give you are extremely high for somebody that's dealing with a heavy metal related illness. So, the illnesses and diseases that are linked to heavy metals are neurological disorders, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, mental health disorders, autism spectrum disorders, And then you have your mystery illnesses, your chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, ME. Now, this could be almost any chronic illness that you're dealing with. If you're dealing with any chronic illness, I would definitely be focused on taking the baths and doing some heavy metal stuff, because even for something like cancer, heavy metals can be an issue. So, the symptoms of heavy metal toxicity, I'm not going to get into all of these, but anxiety and depression, those are big symptoms of heavy metal toxicity, especially with mercury. You can actually get psychosis from mercury poisoning, confusion, numbness, nausea, fainting, abdominal pain, diarrhea, dehydration. You have a tingling in your hands and feet. You can have chronic headaches, especially with lead. You can have pain, nerve pain, muscle cramps, numbness. You can get muscle tics and twitches, and you can also get verbal tics. Actually, I dealt with dealing with verbal tics from the mercury issue that I had. I started having something similar to Tourette's. Also have brain fog, memory loss, impaired language skills, confusion, fatigue, whole body aches. You can also have unexplained weight loss, night sweats, low body temperature, and you can have reproductive issues like infertility and miscarriage. So, a lot of symptoms here, and this doesn't even cover everything. These are just the basic symptoms of heavy metal toxicity. So, in the early stages, many people don't have any symptoms at all. But it should also be noted that taking the bentonite clay bath is a solid preventative measure from dealing with heavy metal toxicity later on. So everybody should be taking the baths, and they make you feel great. So proper detoxification takes many months and even years. People pushing short-term detoxes, you're not going to deal with a heavy metal issue, especially a chronic illness, in a matter of days or even weeks. It takes months and years to recover from a heavy metal issue, a serious chronic issue. But you can be feeling a lot better in a matter of days or weeks with the baths. They are safe to take every day. Every bath that you take lowers your toxic load of heavy metals. So if you're really having an issue, you could take 2 or 3 baths in a day and do that for several days. And then congratulations, you've successfully lowered your heavy metal load in just a couple of days. So proper detoxification should make you feel good, not sick. You should avoid this Herxheimer's reaction that people talk about from detoxing, which is about releasing too many metals and toxins that your body can deal with and causes you to get sick. For a seriously ill person that is severely sensitive to chemicals and supplements, I outlined some basic things that you can be doing that don't require a lot of supplements. And the main thing that I recommend is utilizing the Detox clay bath. So chemical chelation therapy. Touched on this a lot in some of my videos. I'm going to try to keep this brief, but the most common way that people deal with heavy metal issues is through chelation therapy. It has its place in cases of acute poisoning. Um, Chemical chelation is very hard on the body and the kidneys. You can severely damage your kidneys by pushing too many metals out at one time. It's a very up and down situation. It's a roller coaster. You feel good, you feel bad, you have no energy. Um, it's a whole process that you go every time you administer a chelation drug. So it can definitely will cause redistribution, and then it's a very messy process. It's not very refined. It just kind of claws at a bunch of heavy metals, and your body can only eliminate so many of them, and the rest get redistributed into your brain. So, utilizing a chemical chelation agent like DMPS, that may be appropriate after you get your metal fillings removed. I actually recommend doing that. And I had an issue after I got my fillings removed. I was feeling very sluggish, very tired, very cloudy. And I think that was because I was exposed to a large amount of mercury vapor. And I did took DMPS when I got home, and I took a big dose of vitamin C when I got home, and it cleared up the way that I was feeling. And I think that that possibly saved my life. So DMPS, after you get your fillings removed, definitely can be useful, but you need to do that under the supervision of a doctor and somebody that's familiar with chelation. The clay baths reduce heavy metal burden without redistribution, each bath lowers your load. So you should avoid taking DMSA, DMPS, calcium EDTA, or alpha lipoic acid. So you should avoid the Cutler protocol. that Cutler protocol is a good way to just be consistently, slowly poisoning yourself. You should also avoid the chelation challenge test that they do, where they administer a chelation agent and then they test how many metals it pushes out through your bladder. The dosage that they give you of this challenge test is very high. I think it's somewhere in the range of 200 to 300 milligrams of DMPS. Somebody that was very sick like me, I had a difficulty even tolerating 50 or 60 milligrams. So this test is very dangerous. Should avoid doing this challenge test. If you take a challenge test, it's going to show up that you have metals. That's just the way that the test works. Um, baths are preferred over chemical chelation. The exception of this is in cases of acute poisoning or after you get your amalgams removed. All of these can mobilize large amounts of heavy metals. Redistribution of metals into the brain and organs is what you're trying to avoid. Chemical chelation can be very hard on your kidneys, and the clay baths make chemical chelation unnecessary. So, I talked about how this can take several days before they can appear, but what are the symptoms of redistribution? Fatigue, headaches, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, chills or low body temperature, dehydration, weakness. You can also get psychosis. You can also have a numbness or prickly sensation in your hands and feet. When you get a bad case of redistribution, you can definitely know that it happened, but it can take several days before the symptoms fully develop, and it can take months or longer to recover from. So, something to be aware of. So, a little bit about the bentonite clay detox bath. All of that messy chelation stuff can be avoided if you just take the bath. It doesn't cause redistribution and it lowers your levels with every single bath that you take. It's derived from volcanic ash. It's been used for thousands of years by indigenous cultures. Its natural healing power comes from its negative electromagnetic charge that pulls toxins out through the pores. So it has a negative electromagnetic charge. Things that have a positive electromagnetic charge, it pulls out through your pores like heavy metals. So bentonite clay is an adsorbent. It binds to the surface of the clay like a magnet. Sometimes they call it magnetic clay or Indian healing clay. The clay also contains many beneficial minerals. So it lowers your heavy metal toxic load with each bath. Each and every bath lowers your levels. So I have read of people who had acute poisoning. I forget what kind of mercury they were exposed to, but the baths are powerful enough to treat acute poisoning by increasing the number of baths that they took. So they just took multiple baths in a day, 4 or 5 baths in a day, until their symptoms dissolved. So something like this, you want to get medical attention, seek medical attention if you have acute poisoning. But the baths are a good way to treat any type of heavy metal issue. So take a bath every day for a week and see how much lighter you feel. And then you want to get into a rhythm when you're taking the baths. You can kind of get the baths out, and then a couple of days later, you might start having some symptoms again, and you take another bath. Because it's a process where your body is now getting rid of the metals. So your body does move some of the metals from a higher concentration to a lower concentration once you start getting the metals out. So you want to get in a rhythm with the baths. But basics of heavy metal detox is the first most important thing is you want to remove the source of heavy metal. So in my case, that would be my fillings. But I will say that before you remove your fillings, you should be doing the clay baths for 6 months to a year, not having any crazy symptoms, because removing your fillings is the most dangerous piece of any heavy metal detox. But removing the source is key. Number one thing. You also want to make sure that your detoxification pathways are clear and that your kidneys and your liver and your organs are functioning properly. Use the bentonite clay bath to reduce your heavy metal burden. You're taking the metals out with the clay bath. Then you're putting minerals back in. When you're taking the lead and you're taking the mercury out, all of those metals function in your body in place of the minerals that you need. So you're going to be putting minerals back in. That includes things like selenium, zinc, iodine, magnesium. Magnesium is the biggest thing that you need to be taking. And the only thing that I recommend taking every day is the magnesium. Take lots and lots of magnesium through different sources. Anytime you're doing a heavy metal detox, you want to be taking an adsorbent like bentonite clay or activated charcoal. This ensures that any metals that are pushed out through your liver and your gallbladder that end up in your GI tract, all the bentonite clay or the activated charcoal is going to pick those up, and they're not going to get back into your system. So, taking an absorbent is definitely a buffer when you're doing any type of detox. Anytime you're taking anything else, you should be taking our activated charcoal and bentonite clay orally. So then you also have some antioxidant support with vitamin C and E. Vitamin C, definitely something that's good to be taking. You can buy the powder for cheap. Take a couple of spoonfuls every day, morning and evening. It's okay to be taking plenty of vitamin C. Now, you want to be using natural chelation agents, and that would be something like iodine to mobilize this and chelate metal safely through the liver or the kidneys. And then you can also, down here, I have take more baths. So if you're having issues, you want to be taking activated charcoal or bentonite clay orally. You want to be taking the baths, and you want to be taking lots of magnesium. So your detoxification pathways, that's going to be your liver and your gallbladder, which pushes things into your GI tract. And then you have your kidneys and your bladder. That's also an elimination route for heavy metals. And then you have your skin and your pores and your lungs. We're going to be focusing on the liver and gallbladder, your gut, your GI tract, and your pores, primarily with the detoxes that I recommend. Actually, the caveat to this is that iodine is actually mostly excreted through your kidneys, and I do recommend taking iodine. So you got to be careful with the iodine and don't take too much. I don't recommend taking mega doses of iodine. Then you also have your lungs. So if you're a smoker and you're getting lots of cadmium, you need to be focused on detoxing your lungs. And I actually have some supplements that I recommend to do that. But when you're detoxing your lungs, you want to be using a nebulizer. You can detox using hydrogen peroxide, vitamin C, iodine. Now you want to dilute those, obviously, but you can nebulize to really get a direct detox in your lungs. So the safest heavy metal detoxification pathway is through your pores. The bentonite clay detox bath, the safest way to effectively remove heavy metals and a toxic load without redistribution. So adsorbents, I talked a little bit about this, but they keep you safe. If you're dealing with any kind of detoxing, you want to make sure that you have some bentonite clay or activated charcoal in your GI tract. This helps eliminate redistribution, and it helps clean up the heavy metals in the GI tract from your liver. So important to be taking adsorbents as they help eliminate redistribution, especially when taking any chemical or natural chelation agent or you're mobilizing metals. So balanced supplementation. You do not need to be taking tons of supplements to detox from heavy metals. Your primary tool is the clay bath. It is important to only be adding things once at a time until you know how you react to a certain supplement. With the exception of magnesium, you don't need to take supplements every day. Take for a purpose and then discontinue use. Generally speaking, I advise against taking mega doses of anything. Take breaks and take days off. So these are some dangerous supplements that you should avoid. Cilantro, glutathione, NAC or acetylcysteine, chemical chelation agents, calcium EDTA, DMSA, DMPS. Also ALA, alpha lipoic acid. This is fat soluble and water soluble supplement here. Very powerful, especially in the doses that it comes in. Um, this is very powerful stuff. If you want to avoid taking this unless you know how it affects you and you're in a very advanced stage of your detox. You also got to be careful with taking too much garlic, MSM or nutritional sulfur. You need to be careful with this. Large doses of iodine. Iodine in low doses is an essential mineral, and I recommend taking iodine. But large doses of iodine you need to avoid because all of these things can redistribute heavy metals. Now, Shilajit, I actually want to like this stuff, but it can also contain high levels of heavy metals. I really recommend not taking Shilajit. Um, and then we also have, um, how everybody responds differently to different supplementation. So the supplements are all of these supplements on this list are very powerful and can cause redistribution. So some people can tolerate this stuff, but others could get a worsening of your symptoms. So you got to be careful when you're taking any of these. Now, especially cilantro, you're not knowing how much of an active essential oil or whatever is in the cilantro. You can get one batch that's you're kind of used to and you're fine to take, and then you can get an especially strong batch. That's actually something that happened to me when I was doing a detox. Is I got my cilantro from a different grocery store. I made a little detox drink that I was doing with garlic and lemon and cilantro. And I actually mobilized a huge amount of heavy metals. And I was doing great up until that point in my detox. And then the cilantro really took me out with the high doses of garlic. So, and that took me a good month or two to recover from. And that I really recommend strongly against taking cilantro. You don't know how much you're taking, it's unnecessary with the things that I recommend. So, you really, if you're going to try any of these things, you're like, think that they can help you. If you insist on trying these, start with a fraction of the lowest dose. Redistribution can take several days to appear, so something to be aware of. So you really don't want to, these are all mobilizers of heavy metals. You really got to be careful when you're mobilizing heavy metals. Now, a lot of people talk about binders and chelation, and they use a lot of different terms. Really, what you need to be aware of is supplements that mobilize the heavy metals. So never give any of these supplements to kids. People that you should never give your kids chemical chelation agents. I know there's moms of autistic kids that are trying everything. These are things that you never want to give your kids if you are dealing with a heavy metal issue. You should definitely be careful with any of this stuff. So your basic 777 detox, this is safe for kids, non-activating, mobilizing. Sometimes in Chinese Eastern medicine, they talk about activating substances and then they talk about cooling. So it's kind of like a hot and cold thing. All of these things are going to be non-activating and these are going to relieve your symptoms. So this would be taking the bentonite clay bath 3 to 5 times a week. Um, bentonite oral bentonite clay and activated charcoal. Now you can take 1 to 2 tablespoons of the bentonite clay and activated charcoal. Now you want to be drinking lots of water when you're doing this and don't take other supplements around when you take these. Give yourself 30 minutes either side if you're going to take anything else from taking the activated charcoal. And you want to take this away from meals. So you're taking your baths 3 to 5 times a week. You're taking activated charcoal, bentonite clay orally, 1 to 2 tablespoons. And you want to take days off from doing this. You want to take 2 or 3 days off a week when you're taking the activated charcoal and the bentonite clay. And you also want to be taking lots of magnesium. Magnesium is very calming, and you want to be taking it from multiple sources: Epsom salt baths, topical magnesium oil, which is magnesium chloride, ionic magnesium, mag chloride, mag citrate. And also, something that's a good biohack is using rectal administration of either magnesium chloride or magnesium sulfate. You can just use Epsom salts, mix a couple of teaspoons in some clean water, and use a oral syringe with a little coconut oil on it, and you can get your levels up similar to a way that you would with IV. You just lay on your side, and it's not a the whole process takes less than 5 minutes, and it's a good way to get your levels up. And that you can take a lot of things rectally if you want to get them directly into your bloodstream, but be aware that it's very powerful and that you shouldn't just be doing this without knowing what you're taking. But rectal administration of magnesium is definitely the best way that you can get your levels up at home, and you can see results immediately. It's very powerful. So you're taking lots of magnesium, you're taking the baths, you're taking activated charcoal and clay orally, and then you're also drinking lots of lemon water to protect your kidneys. And the lemon water really is hydration is key. You want to stay hydrated. And then the other thing that I recommend, lots of vitamin C. You can just buy the powder. It's cheap and it's effective. Um, doing these 5 things is really all that you need to be doing, especially if you're dealing with, everybody is safe to be doing these 5 things. lots of vitamin C, lots of lemon water, lots of magnesium, and the bentonite clay baths, and the activated charcoal or the bentonite clay. You can use either one or both. I recommend using them both. You can even mix them. That's fine. Totally fine to do. If you have symptoms of redistribution or are sensitive to everything, very ill, stick to these 5 things. So if you want to try this detox thing out and see if it works, do these 5 things every day for a week and see the results for yourself. This is also safe to do if you have your amalgam fillings in.